How we doing?
Hello. James.
Question.
James, we saw Khil back in action at practice today for time about a month, I think. Are you optimistic about his availability for Saturday, and what can he do for this team moving forward?
Yes, we are, but to your point, there's still the issue. He's missed a ton of time, both mentally and physically. So we gotta knock the rust off, and we'll see if he's ready. Then, as you guys have seen, he can be a weapon for us. But if he's not physically ready or mentally ready, then we feel like we got some guys, like you've seen with Luke and others, Joey and some other guys that we think, can fill that role. Ideally, we'd love to have him back. So specifically with Luke, we can save some of those games. But we're going to do what we got to do, this week to play and play well.
What did you see from Andrew in his first start at tight end?
Rap?
Yeah.
Rap played really well. As you guys know, we've had a ton of confidence in him for a while. Football's very important to him. He works at it. He's committed. He's athletic. He's a great route runner. He wants to be a physical tight end, which is something that's very important to us here. As you guys know, I keep saying Tyler Warren's the most complete tight end in the country. I think Rap has a chance to be one of those guys as well. So it's a really good group. I think Ty Warren is kind of, in some ways is leaving a legacy in how to practice and how to work. And I think Rap is kind of learned a ton from him already. So I thought for first game, I thought he did some good things.
We talked a lot about Elliott Washington. He had the interception on Saturday, but his classmate at the position, guy who also was out there, Gunner, Zion, how have you seen him kind of progress in year two here?
Yeah, Terry's done a phenomenal job that we have depth at the quarterback position like I don't remember us having before, and I don't think very few programs in the country have it. And that's why not only are they playing on defense, and you'll see guys rotate through as starters, you'll see guys rotate through in terms of reps, but then also special teams. Not only did Elliott, have that big time interception, but he also started on all four core special teams units. So he is making a huge impact in a lot of different ways. And I think Zion's another guy like that. Those guys are fast, they're athletic, they got great football IQ. You remember last year, he made the unbelievable play on the fake punt. Just guys that are football players and got great football IQ. You can use them in a lot of different places. Zion's another guy like that.
Coach, I know West Virginia, great win. Obviously, there's things you probably want to improve. What's on your short list of things you'd like to see this week cleaned up?
I think the biggest thing is penalties. And when I talk about penalties, as you guys have heard me say before, it's not necessarily the penalties that happen during the play. It's the pre-snap penalties and the post-snap penalties. Those are the ones that you got to clean up because they're focus and discipline penalties. But that's probably the biggest thing from a player's perspective, and then a combination of players and coaches is the timeouts. We've done a really good job of not burning timeouts and having all 3 timeouts or at least 2 timeouts available at the end of the half and the end of the game. And I think we burned 3 timeouts, one in really all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, and we don't want to be doing that.
James, what are some of the factors that come into play if you're deciding whether to attempt to flip a kid who's committed to another school, that you're not just wasting your resources, that it's worth your while?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think number one, is this a player that we felt like we were legitimately in? So some of these guys, they put out a top 5, and you're not in it. That's a top 5 they're just putting out for the media. There's 3 schools that the young man's been really focused on, and if it came down to us and another school, and we reach out, or the kid tells us, hey, I want you to keep recruiting me, then we'll keep recruiting him. Because I think your point is a good one, is we only have so many resources, and you got to make sure that the time you're spending is time well spent. And so to me, it's, were we legitimately in it? Is the kid receptive? Is the kid open? And do you feel like, you got a legitimate chance to get them before signing day? We're not a negative recruiting team. We're not a team that's going to go after other people's recruits just to go after other people's recruits. It's about a guy we've had a ton of time invested in, and they still want to be recruited, and we feel like we got a shot.
James, how did Jaylen Kimber go about things this fall to put himself in that position to be one of those starters in game one?
Yeah, really well. I mean, I think, when you talk about a veteran, you're talking about a guy who's played a bunch of football in some serious conferences, and done it at a pretty high level, enough that we were very interested in when he entered the portal. And then he came here and he's done the same thing. I think he's really grown in all the stuff kind of off the field from a developmental standpoint, especially in the weight room. He's gotten bigger, stronger, and faster and more explosive. But he's a veteran guy, and I think we've talked about before about the importance of having some older players that have played. They've played, whether it's here at Penn State or other places. There's value in that, and then being able to learn some things from our staff and Terry specifically. Just very steady, workman-like approach. And again, a guy that the game's not too big for him. Sometimes with the young players, you're very impressed with them, but then they get in the game and their eyes get big and the moment's big for him. He's played a ton of football, so we've been pretty impressed with him since he arrived on campus.
James, we saw Dejon Lane play a little bit at West Virginia. How do you think he reacted to that experience, and what about him has flashed to you over the past couple months?
Yeah, good. I think the challenge is, if I remember correctly, he was not a mid-semester guy. I think if he could have been here in the spring, he'd be so much further ahead right now. But when you're talking about us, creating that depth that we're talking about and having at least a 2.5 deep, we got to get somebody to step up into that fifth safety role, especially with us playing so much 3 safeties on the field. So his development as well as other guys is important. We need his reps to increase this week, and we need his reps to increase next week, the next game, so that his role can continue to grow on special teams and on defense, and that he earns the trust of his teammates and the coaches. But again, since he just arrived this summer, he's doing some pretty good things. Big, strong, fast, physical guy. That's working very, very hard at it right now. But he's a guy, as we've green lighted, and we're trying to fast track his development, kind of speed up his maturation process.
Coach, what's impressed you about the linebackers so far, and is there anything you hope to see on Saturday from the group?
Yeah, that's another position in terms of we have to create some depth, whether it's with some position changes like you guys have seen, or maybe playing some guys like we've done. We just got done talking about with Day, and we've done with Coop. There's going to be some guys that we're going to have to use some games on to develop that depth. But overall, I think our starting unit we feel really good about. And even some of the backups that have played a decent amount of football for us, but we have some depth issues there. So the development of guys like Dakari and Specca and those guys is going to be really important for us moving forward.
James, A.J. Harris credited Jaylen Reed with kind of calming him down a little bit before the game because of his nerves. But what have you seen from Jaylen as developing as a leader and that side of his game now as a senior?
Yeah, he's kind of the wily vet. He's been around for a while now, played a ton of football for us, played really well on Saturday, as you guys saw. But I also think he's one of these guys that, not only did he play well on Saturday, but he practices well and he works hard. He is one of the smartest football players I've ever been around. If you watch him, he's out there and he is kind of orchestrating everything. Really a vocal player on the field. The game of football makes sense to him and really always has. So he's just a guy that the guys on the team respect his physical ability. They respect his mental ability, his football IQ, and his approach to the game. I think we're in the argument for one of the best safety rooms in the country when you take Zachy, KJ, and Jaylen Reed. That's a really nice combination of pieces to work with. We need this to continue to grow.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.